Hello, it's Jody from Life by Design. Today I'm going to show you how to assemble this 3D holiday truck, which is a fabulous way to give small gifts, candy, and cookies for Christmas. Plus, this truck has a little upgrade from the Easter truck design because the wheels turn and it has a larger bed to hold more gifts. Now, before we get started, you will want to cut out your decorations, your elf, tires, as well as your truck base and body. You will also need a few supplies. First, you will need liquid glue, preferably one that has a fine tip nozzle. Second, you will need a scraper tool or a bone folder to help crease the score lines. And finally, you will need some brad fasteners. What are brads, you ask? Well, they are these small clips that help hold the paper together. You put the sharp tip in the hole and then split the arms so that they secure the pieces together. That's it. Okay, let's get started assembling. I'm going to clean up my area and be back in a flash. All right, so I set aside the decorations. We have our base and our body out, and then under here we have our truck bed here. So let's start to assemble this. Now the first thing we're going to do is put some folds in here. Now I already started folding this one, but I want to show you what to do because this is really important. So I'm using the file with the score lines. Now what we're going to do is fold on the score lines, so you want to be careful of this area, and then I'm just going to use my scraper tool to crease this, and we're going to fold these all in and do the same. Now I already did this on here. So what the area that's important to fold and not to be mistaken is this inner area. Now I think I'm doing this backwards because I like my truck. There we go. I'm going to do it this way. So when you're folding this, you want to lift this up, fold on that crease line, and fold the wheels back because we don't want to bend the wheels. They're going to be helping this truck stand up. So if there's some weight in there, any kind of fold in that will be a weakness and will make it less secure. So the next thing we're going to do is fold inside of our truck base. So let's just fold this on the score lines, and then we're going to get some nice crisp folds. I'm going to fold this back. Now with this box, now that we have this folded, what it's going to do is sit inside of our truck. So when this goes up, you have two ends. You have a smaller end. I don't know if you could see this. I'll put this back down. This side is slightly smaller than the other side, okay? So the smaller side actually needs to go in the front, right? So it's going to face this way, but before we even do that, what we want to do is get our box put together. So the way we're going to do that is first glue these two tabs in, and then I'm going to take this, I'll do this one at a time. I'm going to take this and put it inside to where this corner, this edge is flush. So I'm holding it, but I'm making sure with my other hand that it's flush, that it's not bent, tilted in any way. I'm going to do the same with this. I'll do it this way so you can see it. I'm holding the tab and making sure this end is flush. Okay, let's switch this around. We're going to do the other side, add the glue, and then again fold this in. Do one tab at a time. Just hold it and make sure that that's flush. Do the same here. And you'll see that it's nice and straight. Okay, now hopefully you can see a little bit better how this side is smaller than the back side. So this will be the back side. We're going to flip this over and it's going to sit right in here. Now, the purpose of this is when we put these sides together and it's standing up, this box is going to fit the smaller side. Oops, this is the larger side. The larger side is going to hook over. These tabs here are going to glue around it, and it's going to be glued on the inside. Okay, now before we do that, let's get some of our truck decorated. Now you can decorate as much or as little as you want. In this situation, I want to limit it to just putting on the truck body and tires. But keep in mind that it is much easier to add things like the holly and the lights while it is still flat. However, I want to focus on assembling the structure with you. So let's just set this aside for a minute and let's bring in our wheels. So we have a number of pieces here. Because I want to be able to put like weighted things in here, a gift, or even candy can really have some weight. You can see that this is pretty sturdy. You know, it can easily hold supplies. I don't want to lose my brads, but you know, it can hold things, and these wheels aren't going anywhere. It's holding this up, okay? The reason why it's holding it up is because I added a number of pieces of cardstock together. This is only 65 pounds, and you can see it twisting and turning. So I need to add a little bit more weight to the bottom of this. So you're going to want 3 for each wheel. You're going to get the ones with the holes in it because we're going to make this move. So you want 2 in the front and 1 in the back. So 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. So these are the wheels that are going to go together. Now 2 of them are going to go in the front and 1 goes in the back. And you'll understand what I'm doing in just a minute. I'm organizing. Right now I'm organizing. So 2 are going to go in the front. 1 is going to go in the back. And then we're going to add a brad to it. Okay. So this is also going to go on the top. So this is what we're going to glue together. So those are some extra pieces. And then these little rings will go on top. Okay. So this is how it's going to be glued together. So these are the wheels. All right. Now, let me get my glue, and I'm just going to do 1 together with you, and then you're going to be on your own. We'll fast forward it so that you don't have to watch me do all of these. But I'm just going to glue 1, and you really want to try to make sure you can get the edges as close to the edge as possible, because that's where the weakness is going to be, and it's only as sturdy as the weakest area is what I'm trying to say. So the rest of it will come apart slowly. In other words, if you have a little crack in here and this area is weak, eventually over time it will begin to split apart. So you really want to get those edges nice and sturdy. Okay, so we have 1 done, and I'm just going to do 1 to show you how it's going to work. And this is more of a decorative piece. This isn't going to hold any weight, so you don't have to worry so much that your glue is perfect on this one and really at the edge. You're just going to match up the hole with the hole to here, okay? And then getting that in there. All right, now when we put this together, what we're going to do is we're going to get our brad. So let's first get our brads out. And I'm using black. They come in many different colors, as you can see, and I have another case that has even more colors. You can use whatever color you want. I felt like the black looked the best because it wasn't overpowering. All right, and what I'll do is I'm going to glue this on too while we're at it. So this is going to go in centered, and you're really just going to have to eye this up. So I'm going to bring this a little closer to me and just kind of eye up where it should go, and just the best that I can center that. So it is what it is, and that's how, and if you like it just like this instead, you can leave the gray part off. I was trying to make some tire tracks so that when it does move, because I know that you guys probably can't see this moving, I'm turning it and I could tell you it's moving, but you probably are like, yeah, right. But this way, if this is turning, you'd be able to see it. All right, now what we're going to do is take this. It is not going to be glued to this, all right? It is not. I repeat, you are not going to glue it to the tire. You're going to line up the holes together. You're going to take a brad and you're going to put the little point inside so that it's sticking out. And you're going to put it inside of here, inside the hole of the tire base. And I made it so, I don't know if you can see this, but the tire is slightly lower. So the tire is going to give traction in the end, okay? So you're not, because this is stationary, it's not going to move if that's giving the traction, right? Then you're going to take another one without the hole to this, and you're going to line up. I'm trying to show you, and I can't see what I'm doing. All right. So I don't know if you could see the brad sticking up, and then we're going to separate this, and it does split apart. Now you can see that it's turning. So when this is all together and it's sturdy, you will be able to see your wheels turning. Now, again, I used a thicker cardstock with this, almost like a poster board. This one is much thinner, but what I did love about this is that when you're using the light colored cardstock on top of the dark red, you can really see the shadow of the lines, and it looks beautiful. So I figured this would look better. Unfortunately, it's just not as, sturdy, but that's okay. We're going to make it work. Then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one without the circle, and I'm going to glue it on here. So you really, in the end, will have 4 layers of tire, really 5 layers if you count this piece here. But you're going to have 4 layers of cardstock that will be able to turn and support whatever you're doing, okay? So let me put some glue on here, and once again, I want to get all the way around close to the edge, but I do not, I repeat, I do not want to glue any of the red because I want this wheel to turn. I'm going to just hold this in place for a minute. I'm going to test it. Still moving, so that's a good thing. All right, now I'm going to get the other 4 tires on, and I'll be back in just a minute. All right, I'm holding this last one in place. I do want to check and make sure that all the wheels move. That way I know that nothing got stuck to it. So no glue got stuck to the red area. Okay, so now that we have the truck, the wheels on, now it's time for us to be able to put the body in place. So I'm going to flip this over, glue this, and again, I'm using a fine tip. Now, I'm not going to glue everywhere. I'm going to really focus on gluing these around these intricate areas, okay? So anytime you have like a slit in the paper, that's the area that we're going to glue around. So there's a slit here, so I'm going to go around this area. Let me get around the top. This is a really weak area because there's not a lot getting glued. You're going to have a base over this, so you're going to have 3 layers of cardstock in this area, but this is only getting glued just to the rim. So I'm going to put a little extra glue up there. And then the rest of it is just around these weak areas so that they don't come up. And always try to get around the edges. Let's flip this over and attach it. So when I attach this, what I'm going to do is line it up, but I want to slide it under the wheels. So I'm focusing on my left hand first. I'm going to slide it under and then line it up edge to edge. So I want the little grill and the light to match up, and then I want to slide this one under the wheel and then match up that trunk in the back. Okay, now if you don't get it perfect, which I can see that mine is not perfect, it's slightly off, but I kind of like that, and here's why. You can see a little bit of the shadow on the inside, and it gives a little dimension, a 3-dimensional look. Okay, and again, that's why I used a really dark cardstock for the background so that you could see the shadows and you could see where the door and the handle, and it really pops out. All right, we're going to flip this over and we're going to do the other side. So I want to make sure I'm getting this in the right area. So let me get this glue on, and I'm going to do the same thing I just did, really focusing on these little intricate fine areas, the weak areas. All right, so I have the glue on the back. Let's add this to it. We're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna start with the left side. I'm gonna line up this back of the truck, but first I'm gonna slip it under that tire and then line it up, okay? I wanna pull this over because I could see it's not lined up properly. And then I'm gonna do the same over here. I'm lifting this front tire up, slipping it under, and then making sure that the grill and all are lined up. All right, so again, I did it behind the tires to make sure that the tires still move. So check your tires and make sure that they can move still. So good, everything is good, it's in place. Now, it may look odd that the tires are over top of the rim, but that's why you have those extra rim pieces. Let me find them. And we'll put these on later, but I just wanted to show you. This will go on top, and whoops, all right, this is how it goes. This is gonna go on top, and we're gonna have some foam, 3D foam squares, and it's gonna have it stick out. So it'll literally be over the tire. Well, I should show you here so you can see. Again, you can't see this moving, but you can see if I turn it underneath or over, you can see the foam squares in that, and it's popping it out. Okay, so we're going to do that last, but let's get our box in order, and we're going to fit this box in here. Now, the way the box is going to go, as I said earlier, you have a smaller side and a larger side. So the smaller side is going to go in front where the grill and the engine is, okay? Now the back is the larger side, and that's gonna be glued here. So the first thing we're gonna do is glue, I'll start with the back, the bigger side. So I'm gonna get my glue here and just first glue all this area, the tabs and this back. So I'm just adding a nice amount of glue on here. All right, so I'm gonna line this up, and the first thing I'm gonna do is make sure it's fitting in that area. So I'm just gonna kind of press it lightly to make sure it's wiggled around. And then when I get it secure, I'm going to fold that top over it. All right, so I'm just holding this down. I'm gonna flip this up. What I'm doing is I'm just using my hand to slide back and forth to make sure that this is secure. Now, the reason why we have these tabs folding over is because it protects the top area, because without it, when you have a top area, this gets a lot of traction and a lot of movement and touching. So you always want to secure these tops, whether you're doing a box, a bag, a purse. So this is really secure now, and I can already feel the sturdiness, even though this is only 65-pound cardstock. It's getting pretty sturdy. All right, so before we glue this on, what we're gonna do is glue the bottom. And the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna glue all the red area, and be careful, be careful, be careful not to get glue onto the black wheels, because if you do, then they won't move anymore. I'm gonna carefully just put glue all over this, and getting around the edges. You know how I am with those edges, but do not get the tires. All right, I'm gonna put a little extra underneath in here just to secure that. Now I'm putting a little extra glue because this is the bottom, so I do want it to stay sturdy, and it's, you know, everything's gonna be lying in this area. So let me just lay this down, flop it over. Now before I secure it, I wanna make sure that this is in the right area for this to hook down. And if this is gonna hook down properly, then I can seal it. And in a second, I'm gonna flip it over and make sure that my wheels were not glued. So there we go, perfect. So no glue on the wheels. And then I'm just gonna re-secure this area. I'll just lay it on the side, use whatever you need to. If you hold it, you can use your scraper tool, and then just go over it just so that it touches and you get all the glue touching each side of the paper. All right, now that that's secure, we're gonna add this last tab. So once again,
I like to work with my right hand, so I'm flipping it over. I'm just going to glue this entire tab. I'm getting a little extra glue under there. And then I'm going to flip this tab over, seal the sides, and then secure that top. Let me just run my fingers through this to get it secure. And this box is pretty firm. It's pretty sturdy. Okay. All right, so we're good here. So the last thing we're going to do is glue the sides up. Now, before we do this, one thing you want to keep in mind is you do not want to glue the black, anything black you do not want to glue, because that's the wheel, and a wheel will no longer move. So before I do that, I'm just checking my wheels to make sure that they move. Yeah, so everything's good, everybody's happy. This one's a little tight. There we go. Now it's looser. So I want to make sure that when it's going along the ground, that it's going to move. All right. You don't want a little boy to go, Mommy, my wheel's not moving. All right. So instead of, normally I would say, hey, just glue this whole area and flap it down. But if you do that, your wheel is no longer going to move. So we're going to have to focus on gluing this area. Now notice where it goes to. This side, you can glue all the way up to the top. And so there's like a straight line straight across. So while I'm thinking about this, what I'm going to do is kind of just get an idea of where it can glue up to. So I know that I can glue all the way around this rim, and hopefully you can see this, what I'm doing. I want to be careful. I'm not going to get too close to the tire. There's no need to. And then I could go all the way up to the top here. I'm going to use a little thicker nozzle for this. All right, so I'm going to flip this over, attach it, check the tires. Perfect. All right, I'm going to do the other side. All right, I'm checking my tires for the other side. It's looking good, looking good. It's really actually looking great. I'm very happy with it. And it is nice and sturdy. This one, once again, is a little sturdier because of the 100-pound cardstock or the poster board that I used. But this is holding up pretty sturdy as well. It probably can hold just as much. All right, so I'm loving it, and I do like I can see the difference. I don't know if you can, with the dark shadow in here, really brings out the features. Now it's time to decorate. This is the fun part. If you are interested in decorating, we first of all will have to start with our tree. So I have the tree, and I printed out one side of the top for each. So I have one base. That way it can you can see it from both sides. So if it's sitting in your truck and you turn it around, you're going to be able to see it from the other side as well. Now, if you notice, I put together some of these lights already to go on the tree, and it is just, this was a lot of work, and it was very time consuming, and these were really small pieces. So I left it in the design template, but I want to give you another way of putting these lights together that is much easier. And that's using either vinyl or HTV foil, which stands for heat transfer vinyl. It will eliminate so much of the work and make this process foolproof. Now, in reality, if you were carrying a tree in the back of your truck, most likely it won't have lights on it. But I wanted to add this because it's a fun way to dress this project up and give you some options. So to make this easier, I attached all of the lights and the strings so that it will print out exactly as you see it. And you can change your material in the cutting machine to vinyl or heat transfer. Now, I'm using a rainbow HTV foil. I've used adhesive vinyl and heat transfer on many of my paper projects, but this is the first time I'm using foil HTV on paper. So we'll see how this goes. This is in real time. So let's give it a try. In order to use the heat transfer, you're going to need some kind of iron or heat press, So I'm just going to light this up, and since I'm using paper, usually the first setting is the best. So I'm going to give that a second to heat up off to the side, and in the meantime, we're going to glue each of the sides on. So one side is going to be plain and the other side is going to have some nice, bright, beautiful, holographic, silvery lights. Okay, so rule of thumb, you'll hear me say this a lot, when you are gluing things with holes or cutouts, you always glue, if you're gluing two things together and one has holes, you put the glue on the one with the holes. Before I do that, the other rule of thumb is always check to make sure it's on the right side. I can't tell you how many times I accidentally glued the wrong side. Now, when I made this, I most likely, and I forget, but I most likely just cut it in half and flipped it to try to make it symmetrical. But it's never perfect when you're hand doing this. So I know that this goes together. So I'm going to flip this over and we're going to glue the one with the holes. I'm focusing on gluing the outer areas. Now I'm not trying to get everywhere on here. I'm just trying to focus on some of the weaker areas. So anything that might catch on something or flip up. I like to put this to the side, and I'm going to focus on getting the top, lining the top up. And if I get this top right, then the rest will just fall right into place. Once again, I used a dark green underneath to pop out the shadows so you can really see the pieces of the rest of the tree. All right, now I want something. If I'm putting this in here, most likely somebody's going to be seeing the other side of it. So you want to be able to have your tree shown or dimensional on both sides. So let's make sure this is lined up. So first step, line it up. Let's add the glue to this and put this on. We'll be back in just a second. Here we go. We have this all glued together. Both sides look really great. And I'm just trying to see which side is maybe flatter. This feels a little flatter. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is match up where you want this. It's not perfect. You're just going to kind of have to see what looks best for you. So what I'm trying to focus on with this is that the top hooks of the string kind of look like it's wrapping around the tree branch. So I'm trying to get that on all of the tree branches. And that looks pretty good. I think I will leave it there. Okay, so the first time I did this, I did a couple of things wrong. Now, remember, this is in real time, and I have never done this with heat transfer foil before. First, my heat setting should have been a little bit lower, and that didn't make too much of a difference. But second, because I was using paper on glass, the glass was repelling the moisture, so the paper was picking it up and the paper became wet on the back. I should have put something under it to absorb the moisture and the heat. Now on that note, covering the top plastic with Teflon or butcher paper may have also helped. So round two, I added a cloth under the paper tree, and that made a world of difference. I let it cool and it peeled off perfectly. Now, regular adhesive vinyl would have also worked just as good, and you would avoid having to use heat. But it was nice to experiment. In the end, I really like how the lights came out. Very snazzy, and it gives my tree some pizzazz. So give it a try, or you can skip this altogether on your project. But let's go into making our next decorations. So one of the things we're going to need, since this is a vintage truck, is we're going to need our wood slats. So I want you to take a look at this so you know how to put this on. So you're going to notice with this that the bottom will be longer, and then the side that gets glued into the actual truck bed is also longer than the back. Okay, so these areas are longer because it specifically gave room for you to add some glue so that you can put the glue inside of here. Okay, so let's do that now. I'm going to first show you how it should go. So the glue will go down here and over here, and you're going to fit it in there and pop that right on there. Okay, and how much is up to you. If you want it really close and leave room out there and you want it to go up against your bed, you know, totally up to you. My suggestion is get it in place where you want it and then commit to it and just stick it there, because if you start wiggling it around on the inside, you're going to get just a smudge all over. Okay, let's put this other side on. So the next decorations we have are some holly or lights for your truck. I wanted to give you choices. I always like to give some choices for the decorative part, whether it's cards or some of the 3D designs here. So one of them is you can put lights on the side and have that hanging off, which I think that's adorable. And then if you have your tree in there and you're driving with your little truck, that just looks super cute. The other option is putting on some nice little holly leaves, okay? So I like this one better, but let me show you how to put those together. All right, in order to put your holly leaves together, you have a few different items. First of all, you have the base, which is the darker green, and then the light leaf goes on top so that you can really see the veins and details of the leaves. The next thing you have are the berries. So you're gonna have a white base and then the berries that have the hole in it. So the white is actually gonna be the highlight. And it really, they're meant where the highlight is kind of off to the left. But what I found is it doesn't really matter which way you flip them. The only thing you want to keep in mind is that it should be like a V shape where the bottom berry comes down to the bottom. So as long as you have it in that direction, they will fit fine. All right. So once again, normally I always say, you know how I always say, put your glue on the area that has a hole. But because this is so small and so intricate, I'm just going to hold this into place and put a dot of glue on the bottom of each of the berries on the white. And it's just it'll be much easier than to do it the opposite way. There's always rules, but then there's exceptions to rules. But once you know the rules, then you can break them. I used to be an English teacher many, many years ago, and so I learned that little trick. I'm going to use a jewel picker. The jewel picker is great for intricate things because it has wax on one end that allows you to pick things up, and then you can just pop it right into place. And then if you need to move things around, you use the other side that could kind of push things around and guide it to where you want it to go. So this is this is like less than $10. It's a great tool that if you use intricate works, then always have this jewel picker. It has saved many migraines. All right, so we've got our berries. All right, so I flipped this over already, but before I do that, I just want to make sure I'm putting this on the right side. So rule number 1 is always line things up. Make sure that it fits, so it's fitting the right direction. And second rule is glue on the area that has the holes. Glue on the piece that has the holes. All right, I also like to use my glue to help me pick things up. So if you just stick your end of your glue nozzle on that, it will help you pick things up so that you don't get glue all over your hands. Now I can flip it. And I'll still get glue on my hands, but it helps a little bit. And I'm going to flip this over, line that up. And again, these don't have to be perfect because the shadow underneath is meant to give it a 3D dimension. So if you have the shadow poking out outside, underneath, around it in areas, it's just going to give more dimension. All right, the last thing is I'm going to put some dots of glue. I'm going to put 3 dots of glue around here, and then we'll use that jewel picker, place this right on there. The next thing, we're going to add this, glue this right on here. But before I do, I want to add a couple of things. I want to put my lights on there. I want to put my grill on here. Now these again are little small pieces. You don't have to do this. These are just like those little bonus decorations if you really like this. So I'm going to add glue on here. It'll be much easier than trying to glue that tiny little piece. And I'm going to grab this jewel picker and I'm going to pop that right in there. Use the other end to just like push it around and get it exactly where I want. I'm going to do the same with the grill. I'm going to just line it up right on top of that glue. And see how easy that was? So again, this jewel picker is just tremendous in saving time and helping you do that. Now the next thing we're going to do is put on our rims. I just have to figure out which direction they go. So there's two different rims and they will fit. All right, that one fits here. And this one. So here's the way to figure it out. They're different sizes, okay? The smaller one is going to go in the front, the larger one will go in the back, okay? And the smaller side of it will go in the front, okay? So always the smaller, fatter in the back, and then fatter in the back, smaller in the front. All right, so that's how you can figure it out. I'll just put one side on for now, and we're going to give it some dimension. So we're going to use our 3D foam squares. So I'm going to flip this over, and this is going to do a couple of things. It's going to give dimension, and it's also going to keep it from touching that tire, which remember, we don't want to touch the tire because we want the tire to keep moving. You don't have to put as many as I'm putting on here. And if you want the rim down on the bottom to stick out, as you could put that on as well. Now I feel like these are a little too big, so I'm going to trim these down. All right, so I have all of my pieces of foam tape on here. So let's get these on. So I'm going to start with the easy one, and this is just going to go right in between this area here. There we go. And I love how that adds dimension. Now this one's going to go over the wheel, so it's going to hide some of the wheel and stick it out a little bit. So there we go. And that adds some nice dimension. And last but not least, going to face me. Now I'm going to make sure my wheels are still moving, and they are moving. So we are in business. This is really looking great. I'm loving it. I have the glue dust on the inside. Last but not least, we're going to add our decor. I really like this holly berries, so I'm going to add this to it. And when I do, this would actually be good just with some hot glue, but I don't want to use hot glue on here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just put a dab here on one or on the right, and a dab of glue on the left, and I'm going to leave maybe I'll put a dab of glue in the middle, but I want it to look like it's hanging and give it dimension, so I don't want to glue it flat to it. So I'm just going to put a dab of glue there, and that's a lot more than I wanted to put. I'm just going to hold this for a second. I see some glue popping in through there because I put way too much. Whenever you have some glue popping through, you can get a sharp object. Just kind of scrape that off. There we go. It's looking good. This is really looking great. Should we add our tree? I almost want it where I can pull the tree out and like kind of set it up in a nice little, setting. But so I think I'm going to leave it where the tree can come out so I can look at it. Because if it's permanent, then, not as fun. If you want and you like the tree, you can leave it the back off and put a little message to somebody, or make it a gift tag and put somebody's name on it. So on the other side, I'm going to add the lights, but I'm going to add, just so I have something different and just give a little variety. So I'm going to add the lights on this side, and but first I want to put on the rest of that. Now, you do have a couple other items I want to briefly go over. So let's bring those items out. And first of all, we have the elf. We can't forget about the elf. And then we have our little ornaments, and these ornaments are great gift tags. I did set them up off screen, but you can use them for name tags, to also add to your truck. So many different things you can use them for. So you will also have some gifts that you can assemble and add to your truck. Now the PDF instructions that come with the template will show you exactly how to layer these. But you basically layer the light color over the dark shadow
and add the bow on top. Now the dog also gets layered over the black base, and he can be added to the gift box or sit in the truck with the elf, where I like to put him in the truck. As you can see, there are a lot of different pieces to this template, and that's because I wanted to give you choices to make it your own. But let's focus on assembling the elf to finish off this truck design. So let's put our elf together because he's a little detailed. And the first thing you want to do is make sure they are all in the correct direction. So whichever way his hand is going up. So it goes black, then white, then skin tone. And then here's his hat. And then he has an outfit. Okay. Isn't he adorable? And here's his hat and here's his pants. I don't know why he has two pairs of pants here, but we'll put his pants on in a minute. And here's his belt. And there is another piece for his belt, but I probably thought it was trash and threw it out. So he has a little buckle for his belt. So these again are intricate pieces. The hat is super easy. It just, the little red piece on top of here, and that gives it dimension. And then it looks like there's fluff. So let's put him together. I'm going to glue him together real quick, and then we could put him in a basket and we're going to be done. So I'm going to flip this over, add my glue to it. All right, so here's his hat. Whoops, it slid around. There we go. Just by adding that red, we now have some dimension and really looks, so that's going to go on top of him here. If you want, you can have him holding that. So the next thing we're going to do is glue the white onto the black. So I'm going to flip this over. And what is our rule number 1? Only glue on the, first make sure it's in the correct direction. Rule number 2 is only glue a piece that has holes in it. So I would not glue the black because we would see the glue through it. So I'm going to line up his fingers first because that's the most intricate piece on here. And then the rest should fall right into place. I love using this liquid glue because it gives you that wiggle room of time that you can just kind of move things around if it's not in the right spot. Perfect. So he looks a little pale, so let's give him some skin color. So once again, goes in this direction. Should check that, flipping it over, gluing the piece with the most holes, we'll say this time. So Cricut actually did a really great job cutting his little intricate fingers out. So once again, I'm going to line up his fingers. You can see his little eyebrows shining through, his hair. It looks so cute. He is really cute. All right, now his little outfit. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over. So let's put his little pajamas on. This time I'm going to line it up by his feet. That way it'll fall into place where it needs to go. There we go. Perfect. And he has a belt. Before I commit to the belt, let's just fit his pants on there. I'm not exactly sure. I think the belt goes in the middle and the pants. Okay, that's the correct direction, I think. Yep, definitely the other way. So let's glue his pants down. So I'm lining it up in the crotch area, and he's nice and sturdy. It's, you know, if you're giving this to a child, that, you know, this is pretty sturdy where they can play with this. So let's see how the belt fits. Now it will fit either way. You just kind of have to decide what's best for you. And remember, he does have a buckle that goes on top. I just seem to have lost it somewhere, and it is so tiny that it is easy to lose. All right, his hat can go on top, and we can finish him off and add him to the truck. All right, so we have some really cool designs that we put together today. We have our elf, our Christmas tree, all the decorations here. We have some gift tags, some little gifts that we could stick inside of here, and our truck that has the wheels that turn. So, and it's pretty sturdy. I'm impressed. So hopefully you enjoy making this as much as I enjoyed making this with you. And I can't wait to see some of your designs and how you decorated it. So let me know, and see you soon in the next tutorial. Bye-bye.